You're listening to the Business Brain Food Podcast. This is episode 134.
Welcome to the podcast that gives you direct access to the world's leading business building experts. Head to MaxMyProfit.com.au to catch up on past episodes, download your free business growth tools, and access show notes for every single episode. Now here's your host, Ben Futrell.
Well, g'day and welcome back to another episode of Business Brain Food. This, my friends, is the podcast that's 100% devoted to taking you and your business to the next level. And the good news is, doesn't matter whether you're brand new to this business thing, so maybe you're just starting out, scratching that entrepreneurial itch, or maybe you're like myself and you've been in business for a long, long time. No matter what, there's always something new we can do to take our business to the next level, and today is absolutely no different. Today I've got a fellow called Matt Miller coming on the show who started his life as an Air Force pilot, in fact, an instructor in the Air Force, and has now got a franchise in the US with over 100-odd franchisees and doing some amazing stuff. We'll talk to him shortly about his entrepreneurial journey and how he's gone about overcoming some of his biggest obstacles. Plus, the one thing I loved about it is that he, spoke about how important it was to have somebody, a mentor, a coach, or someone to hold him accountable to get that growth, which, of course, I'm a big fan of. So if you listen to this and you want to get a coach or somebody to help hold you accountable and help you grow your business, MaxMyProfit.com.au is the place to go and make that happen. Now, if this is your first show you've ever tuned into, welcome and thank you for joining us for the Business Brain Food Podcast. Hopefully you're ready for a great interview today. It's a fantastic interview, but make sure you also go back and listen to the previous 133. You can do that by going to businessbrainfood.com.au. All our past episodes are there with all the show notes, all the links, everything that's discussed in every episode at businessbrainfood.com.au, making it easy for you to tune in. Now, of course, if you're a long-time listener, welcome back and thank you for joining me once again. I'm glad you're enjoying the show and you keep coming back for more. Now, on another note, coming up in the next month or so, I'm going to be doing some more of my live events. And in fact, what I'm going to be doing is taking people through the 5 stages of business growth and how you can make sure your business doesn't rely on you. And we're going to talk about that a bit in today's interview, in fact, with Matt. But, I run a workshop. It's free. Come along, check it out. Go to businessfasttrack.com.au. And check out the dates. Book yourself a seat, completely free. Bring a business owner friend, and I'll be in Melbourne, Brisbane, and Newcastle, I think, in June. So come along and see me, and we will see if we can't help you take your business to the next level. Absolutely free workshop, and you can get your tickets at businessfasttrack.com.au. Now, I know I've just thrown a whole stack of domain names at you very quickly, so I'll quickly summarise that. If you want help growing your business, maxmyprofit.com.au. You want to listen to all the episodes, businessbrainfood.com.au. You want to come along to an event and learn how to grow your business? Businessfasttrack.com.au. There you go. 3 different domains. They'll all be in the show notes anyway, but certainly it makes it nice and easy for you just to go to any of those websites and come and hang out with us, and we'll see if we can help you take your business to the next level. All right, so today's guest, as I said, is Matt Miller, and Matt, had an interesting entrepreneurial flair that led him into all sorts of different things, including selling secondhand books on Amazon and getting involved in MLM. But reading Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad really hit home for him and gave him the idea of trying to find a business that was more passive, that didn't rely so much on him trading his time for money. And that led him into the vending space. And he had vending machines all over Houston, Texas, and had a vending run. And then, like most businesses, at some point he hit a bit of a roadblock and saw a financial downturn and had to rethink and pivot and do something different, where he got into a business called School Spirit Vending. And now what he does is he teaches people how to build secondary income streams with a limited time commitment. So most of his franchisees in his franchise have a full-time job or career, and they run a business on the side, which is pretty cool thing to do. As I said earlier, he spent the first 9 years of his career as an Air Force pilot before entering the private sector, where he worked in advertising and marketing for about 10 years. And whilst he was a top performer in the corporate world, his long-term desire, like so many of you, was to be his own boss. And a good friend one day mentioned the gumball machines and his young daughters owned, and that conversation began a 10-year business quest that has brought Matt's company, now called School Spirit Vending, to the cutting edge of both the vending and school fundraising industry, and in the franchising game too. Because today, SSV, as he calls it, School Spirit Vending, is franchising and providing people with a proven and profitable business for people to operate to help their families looking to develop secondary income streams with a limited time commitment. I think what you'll love about Matt is he's also very, very honest about the things that have gone on in his life, including his own health, recently, even last year, having a heart attack, and how his business was still able to grow, sustain growth, and still succeed whilst he wasn't there. So without any further delay, let's get Matt onto the Business Brain Food podcast.
Learn more to earn more.
So I've had a really good run of entrepreneurs on the show recently, and it's not going to stop today. So I wanted to say a big welcome to Matt. Welcome to the Business Brain Food podcast, buddy.
Hey, Ben. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, my absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. Now, before we do get stuck into just talking about building businesses and entrepreneurialism, I wanted to ask you the same question I ask every single guest. You're not going to escape this, and that is for you to share something quirky about yourself.
It's time for something quirky. And now, something quirky.
That's awesome, man. That is so cool. I would have to say the only people that have ever seen any images to confirm or deny this fact is my parents and my wife. But at senior year in high school, I actually played Superman in the high school musical and had the entire get up on stage for multiple performances my senior year in high school.
And there's no publicly available prints of this, I hear.
No, nothing public, nothing.
Well, that's a shame.
It's deep in the archives.
That'd be awesome on the show notes. But anyway, were you a fan of Superman?
Yeah. I mean, the movies were great and all. It just happened to be the musical that we did my senior year, and I was cast as the Man of Steel himself. So pretty wild.
Yeah, great stuff. Now, you weren't always in the business world, were you? I mean, you started life in a different role. Tell us a bit about your past and how, I guess the journey into business.
So I went to the Air Force Academy for college and ended up being an Air Force pilot for 9 years after graduating from the academy. Was an instructor pilot for 5 years and then flew the C-5 transport, which is the second largest airplane in the world, for my last 3 years. Got out of the service back in 1998, wanted to give myself a try in the corporate world, was looking for some more freedom and the ability to make some more money, and started working in the hospital medical device industry for a while, for about a year and a half actually, and then transitioned to the advertising world. And along the way, realized that the rules were constantly changing, especially for publicly traded companies, and they never seemed to be changing in the favor of us, the employees, and was frustrated because some of the decisions that were made had a major, major impact on my family financially. And I was looking for a way to kind of stabilize things, to make sure I could make ends meet, and eventually take more control over my destiny myself. And along the way, started dabbling in entrepreneurship, collected aluminum cans for a while, sold used books on Amazon and Alibris and Half.com for a while. But I had read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where he talks about the whole concept of passive income and making money while you sleep. And I bought into that whole idea, and the businesses that I had tried up to that point were not passive in nature. And it just so happened that a good buddy of mine from church one Sunday mentioned that he and his daughters had bought a couple of gumball machines and had them in local businesses in the area. And that got me thinking about the whole idea of vending, and most specifically at the time, gumballs. It was going to take a lot of gumballs to get us out of the hole we were in financially. But in America anyway, gumballs are about 1,000% markup. And of course, the machine does all the selling, so you don't have to be there while those gumballs are being sold day in and day out. So that's kind of the direction I ended up heading in. And one machine that I got on eBay led to two, led to three. A year and a half later, I had a route of about 120 locations around Houston, Texas, and was finally starting to begin to realize that whole passive income type thing that Kiyosaki had talked about.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. I mean, well done on that. I mean, that's a great story of success. Was it I'm interested to know, was it the pain of the fact that other people had control over your income or your destiny in these companies you were working for, or was it the vision of what could be achieved after reading a book like Robert Kiyosaki's that really drove you to do this?
Ben, to begin with, it was the pain because we found ourselves one year about $80,000 short of what we had made the year before because of some of those decisions that were made corporately. My boss increased my quota 93% one year, and the average quota increase in the office was 5 to 10%. But she thought that she could, throw a bunch of the office's quota on my shoulders because of some things that were happening with my accounts. And it didn't turn out that way, and it ended up hurting us big time. It got so bad that I ended up getting turned down for a payday loan at one point. And you don't even need a good credit rating for a payday loan, but you got to show a bank statement without any overdrafts the month before. And I had 3 overdrafts previously, and so I got turned down for a couple $100 just to pay a bill.
Yeah, which is
a pretty bad spot.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bad spot to be in. It's interesting to hear that different things motivate different people, but it was the pain of that got you moving in that direction. What ignited the spark in you to start a business? Is it because you could have gone in many different ways?
I had always kind of played around with entrepreneurship growing up. I had mowed lawns. I had shoveled sidewalks with snow. I grew up in the Chicago area. I had helped a friend with a newspaper route. So I'd always kind of dabbled in some of that. And once I got into the military and out of college, did a little bit with multi-level marketing and that kind of thing too. And just really kind of got interested in this whole idea of the American dream and figuring things out and figuring out a way to make it on my own. And once I got out and started toying with the idea, I realized pretty quickly that that's what I was made and wired for, is to be my own boss and to get creative and to look at industries like vending or like school fundraising like we do today from an outsider perspective and kind of reinvent them in my own image, I guess. And that's where I really get my joy and really get my motivation today, is to be able to come in and do things that are kind of unexpected, but fill a niche that's there. And that's what we've done.
Yeah, great stuff. Now, one of the things that you mentioned is you've gone from sort of having 3 machines to over 120. Is that your current state of play, or do you have more locations than that now?
Oh, no. Back in 07 and 08, after the stock market crashed and the economy tanked, I was frustrated because my traditional vending route that I started wasn't doing as well. And right around that time, there was a bunch of young kids coming to our door selling stuff to raise money for the local school. And that's where I got this whole idea of developing custom spirit stickers for schools with their mascots and their colors, and then placing sticker machines in the school where all the kids are every day. And in America, I assume it's the same way. Down under, schools are always in need of money. They're always lacking of volunteers to help raise that money. And our program kind of steps in and helps fill a gap that most schools have. And it ends up providing a win-win for everybody. The school wins because they've got a passive fundraising entity or program that they're working with. Our franchisees win because they're generating passive income and helping schools in their local area. And then, of course, we win too, because we came up with the idea and have the support team and structure in place to help hundreds of others and their families duplicate what we've learned how to do over the last decade.
Now, you talk about passive income. A lot of people would like a business that completely works without them, but I'm assuming there's still some work to be done. It's not completely passive.
Right. I mean, our schools see us once a month, so every 4 school weeks or so. But the beauty is, between those service cycles, there's not really anything going on unless you're in growth mode and are out marketing to other schools. So you work for a few days a month, and then the rest of the month you kind of do what you want. As the head of the franchise, I've got a lot more responsibilities, and my schedule isn't really tied to the schools anymore. I've got route drivers that do all that, but it still allows me to come and go as I choose. Next week I'm going to spend several days in Alaska helping one of our new franchisees out. The following week, we're going to be doing a trade show in California in the San Francisco Bay Area for 3 days. And my daughter, 15-year-old daughter's coming with me, and a day on either end of that trade show. She and I are going to do some tourist things and exploring and that type of thing. And I don't have to ask off anymore. I can just go and do. And that's what excites me more than anything is not having those constraints that we once had.
Yeah, great stuff. Now, it sounds like you were very good at identifying an opportunity, and you said that, when you started dibble-dabbling into entrepreneurship, you sold secondhand books and you did a few other bits and pieces like MLM. What was it about those other ideas that meant you didn't pursue those over the vending machines in that beginning? Do you remember?
Well, for MLM, I never, even though I worked it really hard for a while, it never ended up panning out for me, though I learned a ton in the process. For the other stuff I did, I realized real quickly that where they helped pay the bills and filled a need at that time, they weren't passive in nature at all. And I was creating another job for myself that wasn't nearly as exciting and was a lot more risky than my job that I had at the time. So it was only by getting the vending off the ground where I saw an opportunity to create time and money with steady effort over several years instead of just creating money, which I could do doing just about anything.
And would you say that's one of the keys to a great business is the ability for it to generate income without you having to exert yourself?
Well, I mean, isn't that what we all hope for? It's not possible for everybody in what they do, but I think that's what we should all strive for, in my opinion. The challenge is most of us have never heard of that before or really thought about that before, because all we've ever done is trade time directly for money. And in the process, it's a real paradigm shift in thought process in order to begin to make that jump. But I'll tell you what, it's worth it. Just to have that control and to only have to answer to oneself or, to my wife and my family at this point, is a dream come true for sure.
It's certainly a good place to be. Now, Matt, one of the things I'm interested in learning from you is how, you've talked about how you've pivoted. So you've moved from one idea to the next. You saw that your vending machines weren't performing as well as they were. So then you've pivoted into this new field where you're helping schools raise money, which is definitely no different down under to there. The schools always need money. What is it that has helped you identify it's time to change or make that change?
I don't know that it's necessarily what has helped me identify as much as if you look in my life, Ben, every 10 years, I do something different. I was in the Air Force for about 9 years, going on 10. I spent 10 years in the corporate world, in the advertising space after I got out of the medical industry. And then I've done a decade now with School Spirit Vending. Now, we're not stopping SSV. We're growing faster than we ever have before. And we're looking to do some international expansion and all that, which is really, really exciting to me. But I've also started some things on the side over the last couple of years that allows me to continue to stay in that creative mode. As our business grew and we had access to more and more and more kids around the U.S., I felt an obligation to begin to give back to those kids. When I was growing up, I was inspired to read and have become a lifelong reader because of my love of comic books as a kid. And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we were able to inspire kids to read utilizing our vending program? And so I hired a couple of young college grads. One's a writer and one's an artist who had done some graphic novels previously. And I said, guys, here's what I want to do. I want these characters initially to show up in our vending machines along with the stickers that we sell. And they came up with this whole concept and series called Marlin and Percy. They're a couple apes that want to be superheroes. And it started out just coming as kind of the Bazooka Joe of our vending machines. And today we actually have 8, soon to be 9 full-length comic books that we've written. We have a children's novel that we published several months ago, and have a second one that I just got the draft for, and it's being edited as we speak. And it gives me an opportunity to jump off into a completely new business and industry that I've never really done anything with before, got no background on. But just to have an opportunity to learn and to be challenged by something new, and to continue to provide more value for our franchisees and the kids in our schools, really, really excites me at this point.
Yeah, great stuff. Now tell me about the franchising, because that's a pretty brave move, and I'm always interested to hear from people that are franchising their idea, because it means you've got complete confidence in what you do, enough so that you're willing to share that business model and on-sell it. What was it that triggered you deciding to franchise your business?
We were, for the first 7.5 years, we had kind of a distributor model with a licensing agreement. So we were kind of duplicating ourselves in a more informal way. And slowly we had friends and family and others around us hear what we were doing and get excited about it and wanted to be a part. So in the first 7.5 years, we ended up working with about 40 total families when it was all said and done under that model. And then about 3 years ago, I hired a business coach and life coach, a guy by the name of Aaron Walker. Aaron has a company called View from the Top. And anyway, he had 35 plus years of business experience, had bought and sold 8 different companies during that time, multi-millionaire. And he helped me see how much bigger what we were doing could be and how much opportunity that there was out there. And so because of some conversations he and I had a couple of years ago, I started looking into, okay, so how can we continue to grow and expand and be more purposeful about it? And in consulting with my attorney after several conversations with Aaron, my attorney said, Matt, if you want to do what you're talking about doing and have some extra capital to be able to grow like you're planning on, you really need to become a franchise. And so we made that transition here, I guess about 19 months ago. Since that point in time, we've added 64 franchisees to the team. So we've over doubled the team that we started out with, and are just absolutely on fire right now. We found there's a lot of people that want to start a business but don't know how, and are looking for a program like ours to teach them. And they're wanting to do it on a limited time commitment without sacrificing their career and have their kids and family involved. And so we kind of fill all of those roles, and of course have a business that's relatively passive in nature as well. So we've got people lined up and have really been blessed because of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Well done. And I think, the fact that you're helping and enabling people to be able to do that is must be a great feeling, must be a great thing to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. When I was an instructor pilot in the Air Force, I loved watching new students who had never set foot in the airplane that I flew over several months learn how to fly it, go solo, and then eventually get their wings in the Air Force after 6 months' time. Well, when I got out of flying, I lost that kick that I got watching that growth. Well, I get a chance to see it today because, we had a couple of brand new couples show up here for training this last Saturday, and they're totally green behind the ears, know nothing about vending or fundraising in schools or anything. And our job is to teach them and train them in the way that we do things. And it'll be so much fun to watch them grow and mature and learn and make SSV be what they want it to be for them and their family over the next couple of years, and just be a little part of all that and a little spark to help them make that change to the betterment of their families as well.
And that's awesome, because I think it's good to watch people grow and prosper, especially when they don't know that they can. The old saying, you don't know what you don't know until you know what you don't know. It's good to hear that people are starting to learn what is possible? What is absolutely possible? What are some of the biggest, or what's the most enjoyable part for you? Is it watching these franchisees bloom, or what? Being an entrepreneur has a lot of good parts to it. What's your favorite part?
I mean, I would say that's one of the biggest things. Of course, like I mentioned, just having some control over time. My family, my kids, my two oldest are in college, and for the first time ever, my oldest is 20, my second oldest is 18. For the first time ever, we were able to take spring break away for a week as a family here about a month ago, and just to have the time and the money to be able to do that, it's taken, in my son's case, 2 decades for us to finally get to that point. So just to be able to do a little catching up, because we couldn't do so many of those things for the earlier years of their lives, has been really special, and will create memories for all of us for years to come.
Yeah, great stuff. Now, tell me, every entrepreneur has bumps in the road on their journey, and I'm sure you're no exception. And we always talk to people once they've hit this area of success, or what we consider success. Rarely do I interview somebody who's in the midst of failure. But I'd love to learn from you. What's been your biggest failure? What are the things that have challenged you over the 10 years or so that you've been building this?
Yeah, there's a couple of them, Ben. First off, before I hired Aaron as a coach, I had kind of leveled off. My whole goal was, after we got the bills paid, which was the initial goal, it was for me to walk away from my corporate job. And so 6 years ago, I was able to do that. And there were several years there that I was kind of aimless. I got bored. I was taking naps every day. I didn't really have a purpose, because I had reached that goal that I'd had for so long. So I needed someone like Aaron to come in and challenge me and get me to start thinking better and bigger, to get me to realize that it's not just about success, but it's about becoming significant over time, and not just impacting yourself and your own family's finances, but also helping and impacting others. So that was one of those big bumps. Just not dreaming big enough, not thinking big enough, and just getting stuck for a while. Another bump actually happened here early December. I'm 50 years old now, just turned here about a month ago. But at 49, I was visiting my folks and my brother and my two sisters in Wisconsin for a Green Bay Packers football game, and I ended up having a heart attack at 49. And thankfully, got to the hospital. Had a couple stents put in, a couple arteries, and I feel better than I have in years today, and am on the path to live in a much longer life. God obviously had other plans than to take me home that day, but talk about a wake up call, and talk about, for sure, a pivot point and a bump in the road, because that kind of thing is supposed to happen to people in their 70s and 80s. Not to somebody in their late 40s. And I'm just been blessed to be given another opportunity to be able to make some changes in my diet and my exercise regime, and that there's medication today that can help someone like myself, live another 2-3 decades, if I take care of myself and do a better job of taking care of the body that God blessed me with.
Yeah, good tip there. Now, I'm interested to know, because one of the challenges, a lot of people, if they were sick and they had something like that happen, their business wouldn't survive. What do you think were the key ingredients in your business that meant that whilst you were sick, it took care of itself, or was it challenged whilst you weren't there?
It would have been a huge challenge 2 years ago, Ben, because at the time I was basically a solopreneur with a bunch of systems and processes in place that allowed me to lead our organization without any help except for some contractors. I've made a transition to where there are numerous employees that help us in a variety of support roles. Like, as an example, my sister is my personal assistant. And the minute that I called her and said, hey, this is going on, she was on the phone and on email, completely clearing my calendar for the next week and giving me the time to to do what I needed to do in the hospital, get things taken care of, and then to slowly help me ease back into things once I was back home and up and at 'em again. It would have been a major, major stress if she hadn't been there to do those kind of things. I've got a guy by the name of Shane, who's the head of our franchise sales. He was able to pick up the slack for several weeks and do all of the interview process, where I'm normally involved in the second half of it. And despite the fact that he was really, really busy as it was, step into that gap and help me make sure that nobody got left by the wayside as I was recovering. If I didn't have those key players and several others on the team, it would have been really, really, really difficult for sure.
So what would your advice be to people that are running a business right now that relies solely on them?
You need to read Michael Gerber's book, E-Myth Revisited, and you need to decide if you're a technician, a manager, or a true entrepreneur. And if you're a technician or manager currently, you need to figure out how to get from that place to being an entrepreneur, as Gerber defines it. And in the process, you will put systems in place. You will bring people on board to help you do what you do, so that your business relies less and less and less on you as time goes on, so that you do have the freedom to come and go, so that it will survive whether you're in the hospital or whether you're sitting in the office.
And I think it's a big concern for a lot of people. I mean, it's a question we often ask people, say, what would happen if you were sick or went on holidays for a month? And unfortunately, most businesses wouldn't survive. And so, I don't really call them a business. They're a job, aren't they? You're sort of self-employed. What
right.
You've mentioned Aaron a couple of times. How critical, or how much would you attribute to the fact that you worked with Aaron at that point you became stagnant to the success that you're currently having?
Oh, I would not be anywhere near where I am today without that man. For some reason, professional athletes and Olympic athletes and business executives, CEOs have coaches, but most of us don't. And we're missing out big time because of that. And even if it's just somebody who's got a lot more experience and is more of a mentor to you than a real coach, I encourage you to find somebody who can be a sounding board, who has a lot more wisdom and experience than you do, to help you navigate, your life and your business, because we're limited in our thought process and our beliefs in so many ways. And it was just a couple simple comments and conversation that Aaron and I had that changed everything. And without those conversations, I'd still be stuck and probably be really, really frustrated right now, because there wouldn't be a whole lot of forward movement going on. So I owe a lot of it to him for sure.
And what was it that triggered that for you? I mean, you were in that space where you're cruising along, and all of a sudden, did you get introduced to this coach, or did somebody tell you about the great results they were getting? What sparked that to happen?
The speed of the group is determined by the speed of the leader. And like I said, I had stagnated, which meant that our group had stagnated. And so I realized that. I started getting myself out to conferences. I attended a couple of different Seth Godin events. I attended a couple of Dave Ramsey events. I don't know if you're familiar with Dave, but he's a well-known radio host talking about, living without debt and entrepreneurship and that type of thing here in the States. And I was at a week-long, what's called Entree Leadership Conference that Dave was hosting in Nashville, Tennessee. And Aaron has known Dave for years and was actually there as Dave's guest. And Aaron and I ran into each other on the very first break, and we got to talking and ended up kind of hanging out for most of the week off and on. And when that week was over, I was like, man, I have got to find a way to get around this man, because every word he spoke was just wisdom. And so anyway, I reached out to him a couple months later. I was back in Nashville again. We had lunch and found out that he was just starting a coaching business. and was planning on starting up some masterminds and some other things on down the road. And I couldn't afford him at the time because he was pretty expensive. But 6 months later, I was in a position where I could, and hired him on. And, it took me over a year before I made a single penny because of my time with him. But month 13 or 14, Ben, I made fivefold what I had spent on him as a coach in the previous 12 or 13 months in 1 month. So I had to be patient. I had to be willing to invest in me, which is the most important investment each and every one of us can make, is in ourselves, and realize that even though I wasn't seeing financial progress to begin with, there was a lot of baggage and a lot of junk he and I had to work through to finally get me to a position to win. And today I still pay him as my coach, even though we're doing extremely well, because there's other things that I want to do and other things that he can help me out with and keep me accountable to, and that type of thing.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. I love the way you put it that, sports stars and, top politicians, executives, they all have coaches. And for some reason, business owners don't. I always say to people, trying to build your business without someone helping you is like giving yourself a root canal. You wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it. Now, if you could go back 10 years or so, is anything you would change? Anything you would do differently?
I would have set bigger goals for sure, goals that scared me in size. And I would have found somebody that I could be mentored by even sooner, just because I was stuck in some of my habits and some of my thought process, and that slowed our growth down because of that.
And when you talk about growth, you've gone from being just you having a router vending machines to now having, a franchise across the US with many, many customers. Have you got any tips for business owners that are looking to gain that growth? Is it about, do you put most of your time into marketing or in sales, or how do you go about building a business to that scale?
I came from a marketing background, so that's where I err towards, is that side of things, because that's the space that I'm really, really comfortable in. But I've also learned how to get, comfortable getting out of my comfort zone and talking to people and sharing what we do and that type of thing. And early on in vending, I was literally going door to door, business to business, to see if I could get those gumball machines placed. And we do something very similar with schools today, and just getting to the point where you realize, okay, this is something that very few people will do, is get out of their comfort zone and be willing to work through that fear of the unknown, to where if I keep doing what I'm doing, and if others keep doing that very thing in their businesses, that we can all get to some very, very rare air, because there aren't that many out there that are willing to do it for an extended period of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I see so many business owners looking for the easy marketing strategy, and they're trying to use social media, etc., as their shortcut, and then getting frustrating. But that's where everybody is, isn't it? So, it's not necessarily the best place. It's a very crowded market.
There's no such thing as get rich quick. It doesn't exist. So you got to get busy working your tail off if you want something to last, and something, to get you to the place where, you can really do some unique and different things with your life. If passive income was simple, everybody would be doing it. But they're not. And there's many that are trying that are not getting there for a variety of reasons. But oftentimes it's just the lack of realization that, it's going to take years to get where I want to go, not days or weeks or months. And, to get ready to run that marathon instead of running a sprint like so many try to do today.
And it sounds like you're only halfway through that marathon, maybe not even so. So how do you define success? When do you know you've arrived?
Wow. At this point for me, it's we're paying for our kids' school as they go. We've got 6 more years of college to pay for. Another year and a half of 2 at a time, and then we'll just be down to 1 at a time, which will be. So for me, it's getting my kids through school and without any debt for them or for us. It's getting our house paid off in the next year or two. Those are kind of the next two big steps for us. Once those are done, it's things are gravy at that point, at least for a while, until weddings and grandkids and all that stuff come around. So in the short term, those are some of the targets that are in front of us at this point.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It's a good definition. It's because for everybody it's different, isn't it? Right. So, what would you say are the key elements for you, or would you, if you were talking to somebody about, if you're going to build a business and it's going to be successful, here's the key things you have to do to be successful. What would those key elements be?
Discipline to get up and do a little bit every day. Persistence and consistency. It's not the home runs that build a business. It's base hits day after day after day after day. It's being able to look at a big goal and not be overwhelmed by it, but be able to figure out what are the small daily tasks that over a period of months or years can get you from where you are now to where you ultimately want to be. And I've been blessed with the ability to do that and not let all the minutia and all the negative, especially early on when we had bill collectors calling constantly and all that, to be able to still continue to focus on the task at hand and not let all those negatives drag me down to the point of inactivity and inaction. And unfortunately, many of us get caught up in that. We start having a pity party that won't end. And we let ourselves stall or lose our dream altogether just because we can't look past the junk that we're in the middle of at the time.
Yeah, it's such a sad place. I see so many people. Well, Matt, we're just about out of time, but I'd love to find out, how can people find out more?
Yeah, Ben, I wrote a short ebook called Live Your Dreams, the top 10 reasons why you need to own a vending business. And, it essentially, it's real short, it's a couple pages, but it talks about some insights that I've learned over the years that most busy professionals have never thought of before. So I'd love for anybody in your audience who would like to learn a little bit more about vending itself to check that out. They can go to ssvbusiness.com/brainfood and download that for free. And, we could even potentially talk about the franchise side of things too, for those that have interest in going that route and talking more. For those that might have kids or grandkids and want to have wholesome reading for them, that you can know that the kids are being taught principles and you don't have to worry about a bunch of adult themes and that type of thing like so many of the comics out there today have. They can go to marlonandpercy.com, and we've got a comics 1 through 7 bundle. It's all those comics together in ebook form that if they use the code APEPOWER, APEPOWER, they can save, I think, $9 on the bundle and get some really cool reading for their kids or grandkids along the way.
Wow, so generous of you. Thanks for that. I know that the listeners will love both of those opportunities. The other thing is that you spoke during our chat about going international. So right now, your franchise is just in the US, is that correct?
Yeah, currently, what we're looking to do over the next few years is to set up master franchise agreements in countries like Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and others. And so if there's anybody in Australia or anywhere down under or where your audience is that would like to talk potentially about what that might look like, I'd love to chat and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, because I don't know of anybody doing anything like you here in Australia. Although, our listeners are all over the world, but predominantly Australia, the US, and the UK. So if you are anywhere in the world and you want to have a chat with Matt about the possibility, I suggest you get in contact with him, and you can do that through the School Spirit Vending website, which is ssvbusiness.com. And I'll make sure those links are in the show notes as well. Matt, congratulations, mate, on all your success and pushing through. And I hear, it's funny, we see all this success from the outside, and on the inside, there's been a whole bunch of stuff going on. You've had your bumps, just recently with your heart issues. So congratulations on pushing through, mate. And I just love your outlook and what you're doing. I think it's amazing. So well done.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, and God bless you, man.
My absolute pleasure, buddy. The pleasure's been all mine. All we've got left to do now is the 60-second scramble. Are you ready for that?
Let's do it.
Mate, a heart attack will look like nothing after this. Let's do it. All right. The favorite app on your phone?
It's called Rev, R-E-V. It's a transcription app.
It's a beautiful. I love that one. Do you have a hidden talent?
I love to sing, and I dabble with the guitar.
Nice one. What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Say again, you just cut out.
What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Probably goat brain in China.
That is strange, yeah. What's your biggest addiction?
It actually is Frappuccinos from Starbucks.
What frightens you the most?
Wow. Waking up and being homeless because I haven't been able to fulfill my obligations and keep a roof over my family's head.
Oh, that's a good one. Your favorite movie?
Yeah, I'd have to say any of the Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings movies.
Nice stuff. All right, mate. Well, that's the buzzer. You're off the hook now. Thanks so much once again for coming on the Business Brain Food podcast, mate. It's been absolutely amazing having you on and hearing your story, and all the best in the future.
Thanks. Same to you, Ben.
Business Brain Food.
Well, there you go. Another fantastic chat with another entrepreneur doing some amazing stuff. And, you know, all those links that were mentioned in the books, etc., that were mentioned throughout the interview will be in the show notes. So go to businessbrainfood.com.au. This is episode 134. You'll find all the show notes there with the links in it for you to click, make it nice and easy for you to do so. Now, if you haven't already, I want to encourage you to go also join the Facebook group that we have. We have a private, closed Facebook group for listeners, and it's called Business Brain Food on Facebook. So if you go to facebook.com/groups/businessbrainfood, or you can go to our website, businessbrainfood.com.au, and click on the link there and apply to join the group. You just have to wait for one of the team to approve your membership and then come in and have a chat. We're in there talking about all things business, and right now you are definitely missing out. So get across to the Business Brain Food group on Facebook and join us, join in the conversation, and hopefully we can help you take your business to the next level in that group, not just with this podcast, which is pretty awesome. Alrighty, well, that's pretty much it for this week. Once again, thanks for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with Matt about his entrepreneurial journey. Hopefully it's inspired you to do something different. If nothing else, inspired you to get a coach. Go to MaxMyProfit.com.au and work with one of my team, and we'll help you take your business to the next level. Until next week, have a profitable day. Cheerio.
You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted.
The Business Brain Food podcast is brought to you by MaxMyProfit.com.au.